Descent into Darkness, Season 2, A Call of Cthulhu Campaign. Welcome back to Death Watch's Call of Cthulhu Campaign, Descent into Darkness Season 2. I am Travis. I will be your keeper today, and we are all gathered in the storeroom of the New England Museum of the Occult. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Where our principal investigators are having a conversation about everything that they've discovered, which basically boils down to evidence seems to be pointing to some kids from Harvard having something to do with this investigation into the murder of Mr. Dooley. For the Arkham crew, that would be Professor Mueller and Mr. Monroe, they have discovered, or at least theorized, that there is an apparatus of some sort of dark power that lies latent around Boston that may have been hijacked by another group, or is just still lying there and was used most recently by the Chapel of Contemplation. So we will return to that discussion in the storeroom. But first, let's get an introduction from our players about their investigators.
All right. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm playing Johann Mueller, and everything seems to be getting better.
I'm Dr. Wallace Andrews, played by Brandon Turner, and I'm currently still trying to figure out how we can get Charlie Murphy set free, because I'm not convinced he committed this crime.
And I'm Justin. I'm playing Lance Monroe, who right now is very happy that his museum is full, as well as, digging deeper into all of the mysteries that are happening in and around Boston.
Yeah, feels a little safer. So we had last left off with you guys smoking the Dreamcastle tobacco, going over its flavor. Everybody except for Mr. Monroe was partaking in that, and so Monroe, you're sort of silently watching this haze of smoke fill your storeroom.
Getting stank hotboxed.
Yeah.
It does smell pretty good because as it's been discovered, it's highly aromatic. So
covering up the foul. Yeah,
that's more in the taste you're discovering, and it doesn't seem to come out in the room note at all. But so they've the conversation has lulled to a point insofar as the tobacco is concerned. So maybe you've been waiting for a moment to interject with something. Since you're the least likely to allow a pause, a moment of silence to pass without interruption.
Well, no. Right now I'll probably be, going through my storeroom and, checking on things, making sure that it's all still in good state, and considering asking them not to smoke back here, since it can damage some relics.
Damage the tapestries?
Yeah. But yeah, that would probably be my next move.
So are you just working up to it at the moment?
Well, yeah, when they first, started lighting up, and smoking it, I hadn't really thought about it, but then as I, looked around the storeroom, I'd want to check on some things, make sure some containers are sealed. Most of the stuff I have isn't the kind of thing that would be, harmed by it, but there are some, like I'll get around to like some filing cabinets that have paperwork and stuff in it, that newspaper clippings, and work my way back around and say, gentlemen, as much as I hate to, ruin a good time, could we not smoke in the area where my valuables are stored? There are some things in here that could be potentially damaged.
Oh, hogwash.
Yes, my apologies. I'm sorry about that.
Fine. Very well. I'll start walking out. I'll probably head outside.
I'll follow Professor Mueller.
Okay.
But I'll suggest that if if we have no objections, perhaps, we could retire to my house or to my home or someplace else that is a little less temperamental to environmental changes.
But a thought that I had here is maybe he wasn't telling us to come smoke this tobacco, but we should check some of the surrounding tobacconists and see if they have any orders that were placed for this. Because it definitely didn't seem like it was something that was going to be popular.
Yes, this was a special order from a specific place in England. So that's not a bad idea. See if this order's been placed elsewhere.
Perhaps we should split up again. 2 go and investigate the tobacco, and 2 more see about getting us into Harvard to begin chasing down the lead of the young men.
It does remind me that officer, what was his name, the one that was on to us? It wasn't, was it Wayne Nichols?
Wayne Nichols.
No, it was
Logan Terry.
Yeah. Logan Terry had mentioned that there had been a couple of disappearances up around that area and suggested that I investigate those instead.
Disappearances of people?
Yes. I believe he said that there were 2 people that had gone missing up in that area, that the police have had no luck in resolving their whereabouts.
Up around Harvard?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
well, that's my alma mater, so I should be one to go there to track down this Porcellian Finals Club that was that Mr. Dooley tried to chase off from the Corbett House.
Have I lectured at Harvard?
No.
No.
No, you have to have probably a world-class skill rating to get into that.
Full of dunces.
Right.
Have I lectured at Harvard?
Probably.
Probably. Only because you were trying to, you were meeting a lady
booze.
there and you were trying to get out of it. So you posed as a professor for a short time.
Figure I was selling booze on campus.
Oh, yeah, that would probably
almost
most
got
likely.
caught.
All right. So as you guys begin to leave the storeroom, Monroe leading the way, you almost run into one of your workers. You want, do you hire a male or female help?
I suppose it wouldn't really have mattered as long as they had a little bit of showmanship to them.
Okay, so we'll go with the first name then. So Annette Barnes, in the old random generator, is your help. And she's like, "Oh, excuse me, Mr. Monroe, but there's somebody here looking for you." Or Mr. Whitmire, I think he said, asking about the Peruvian display.
Did he by any chance give his name?
No, he didn't. He's really big. I can't quite place the accent though.
Big. Show me to him.
Ring any bells?
As long as it's not Mendoza.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, Johan would have
Last thing we need right now.
But yeah, I'll be led away. I guess I would have, suggested that, James and I team up if Johan and Dr. Andrews were both going to Harvard.
I don't know. Like, if I had an in, I'd probably go that way, but...
Well, he is your in.
Yeah, I guess. But also, like, Johan's an experienced pipe smoker as well, so I don't know. I could go either way.
Well,
oh, yeah, that's true.
I
He
suppose
does know the most about tobacco.
before we leave the back room, if you guys want to, if we want to decide who's going where, I could go either.
Yeah, I could really do either one also.
Well, why don't...
I could try my history at Harvard, because that is my highest skill. I don't know if it would be enough.
Where am I most likely going to have to slip into some place and steal stuff?
Well, slipping in, like getting around, might be really good at Harvard as well, right? Because you're going to have...
I think Whitmire could help me the most at Harvard, because we might need to get
records.
Persuasive with these boys if we find who they are.
Okay.
And not that I would ever suggest the Whitmire would do anything illegal, but we might need to search.
I think we're well past the point where we suggest it. We can just outright say he's the person that does the illegal stuff for us.
Gets his hands dirty.
And to remind you, Dr. Andrews, you also are expecting that Van Barnett at U of M
Yeah.
might have something on the fiber you guys.
Yeah,
found.
so let's go to see him first, and then we'll head up towards Harvard.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can take my car. Do you want me to come meet this person with you,
Yeah.
Monroe?
But Dr. Andrews, before you go, I would like to discuss some things with you. Just a real quick. Do you know what trepanning is?
Yes.
I would like you to perform that on me.
Oh. What is that? Is that held in high regard at this time?
That's a good question. I think it's had like a sort of up and down reputation throughout the ages because it's a pretty old procedure. But I would expect that it is held in high regard at this time. So we will go with that.
You see, during my fugue that the lisping man put me into, I gleaned several bits of information that turned out to be correct later. And during the fugue, I believed myself to be in an asylum, and they were going to perform the procedure on me, which I found rather odd. I believe that lobotomy would be more what they would want to do. So perhaps there is something there, is what I'm grasping at.
So you could make a medicine roll if you'd like.
Okay.
I would figure that it would be perhaps where the third eye should be. Perhaps it would.
Nice. Then you'll be able to see all the mythos creatures that are floating around you right now. So in your experience, he's kind of alluding to maybe an ancient understanding of it, where it was thought to release bad spirits and what
Right.
have you. But we'll say a good way to look at it is mostly for the treatment of pain or you know, pressures.
Too much pressure on the brain. Yeah.
And without significant cause, leaving a permanent hole in somebody's head isn't advisable. So that would be your understanding of it.
Yeah, but could I say that what he just described to me sort of sounds like pressure on his cranial pressures causing hallucinations?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, because you would definitely have heard of cases of, you know, different effects on the brain causing, you know, auditory hallucinations, or which you're probably starting to experience a little bit being sleep deprived. You're hearing like random sounds and whatnot. But you could see it is.
Could an occult roll help me pinpoint a good location for either opening the third eye or whatever to potential otherworldly phenomena or mystical, like chakra, perhaps even?
Mm-hmm.
I think you, without the roll, you actually probably stumbled upon it.
Okay.
Where you were
So yeah, I'll
pointing to.
Okay, yeah. So like I'd point to the third eye on the forehead, but there are also a couple other areas that.
Well, I'd certainly be willing to discuss it with you.
Wunderbar.
So while they're talking about that, which Whitmire and Monroe are going to go meet your guest.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you go out, you have 3 rooms here. One is reserved for an office, and the other 2 are different display rooms, we'll say, for a modest museum, as you have described it. So one of those has been dedicated to your Peruvian hall for a little while now, ever since you got back with it. And that is where your guest is, looking at the different figurines and artifacts that you have displayed there. You know, he's currently looking at a statuette of, I think it was Viracocha was the name of the god, that you had pulled out and set aside specifically because it was a little odd in ways from the other reliefs you had seen of that, where it was like a fanged version of Viracocha, and he's looking it over. But what's remarkable about this man is he may be one of the biggest men you've ever seen in your life. And you think he's somewhere, around 6.5 feet tall. And his head is shaved, and he has one of those scalps where the skin is like pulled together a little bit, and it kind of, there's like a bunch of wrinkles and whatnot. He has a very ridged eyebrow area. Okay. But he's looking at that. Make a psychology roll for me. Whitmire, you can do the same thing if you're there.
Ooh. Yeah, get a check mark.
Nice.
Oh,
I'm telling you, man. He's sucking it all up.
yeah.
We got to put him down.
Either that or send him against anything and let him...
But he's too smart for that. We got to throw in like a gold watch first.
So you can both pick up that he's making a show at looking at these things. He's really not actually examining in the way that you have seen people interested in the artifacts look at things. Furthermore, there's been a space that's kind of cleared around him where he has the opposite of a gravity effect. His sheer size is actually repulsing more of the polite customer base.
Makes sense. And seeing that he's kind of driving off my customers, I'll come up to him. I'll say, "Hello, my good sir. I understand that you would like to discuss some of my Peruvian artifacts with me. If you'll follow me to my office, we can discuss the matter there." Just to get him off the floor. And
Okay, so when he speaks, he has an Italian accent you pick up on.
Okay.
And it's actually almost absurdly high-pitched, so much so that I'll take a power roll from both of you.
Really?
Nice.
Oh.
Well, it's not quite a fumble there,
I can't help
James.
it.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's funny. It's like humorous, and laughter or shows like that are involuntary. So despite yourself, you snicker softly.
Oh no, it's a full-on belly
You wanna
laugh, man.
Yeah, and those ridged eyebrows on this big Italian guy, we'll call him Meathead. They kind of draw down with an unfriendly look towards you. So meanwhile, Whitmire, never mind, wrong names. Erase all that.
Andrews
and Mueller are walking out discussing this trepanning, and you've gone out the front of the New England Museum of the Occult, and there are a couple men standing there by the door, and one steps out of your way, and he offers an apology in French, but go ahead and give me a spot hidden as you pass.
Just real quick, I forgot to write down the name of my hire.
Your what?
My assistant.
Oh, Annette Barnes, I think I said.
Annette Barnes.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I'll be gesturing like hammer and chisel. Yeah, except not directed immediately at my forehead. But yeah, like I think I'll be like, do they still do it in the?
Brandon's like, well, no, you got a drill. I got it right here.
Yeah.
I didn't see your spot, Dr. Andrews.
Oh, what is it? Not. There we go.
Nice.
So, as this guy steps out of your way, offers his apology in French for some reason. I can't think of what excuse me is, although I ought to. But what is it?
Pardon.
There we go. Yeah, you see his jacket fluff open, and you see a gun in there, which Andrews knows.
It's illegal.
Right, unless he has some sort of special consideration.
Yeah.
I wish I knew that before.
This guy's the
There's two guys.
giant dude? Or?
No, you guys are outside. You're at the front, just stepping out into the street.
Oh, okay.
We're being ambushed.
Streets
So
of
two
Boston.
people are approaching us, and one has a gun.
Yeah, it's like they were posted up out there, but he was a little too close to the door when you walked out, so he had to move out of your way.
Okay.
And the other one's kind of leaning up against the wall, smoking a cigarette.
And I don't recognize either of them?
No, they have. It's very difficult to describe, but I'm sure you're all familiar with the sense. You have a sense of him not being an American. Not only because he spoke French, but because there are certain characteristics in the face and stuff where you're like, well, this doesn't look like your average Bostonian.
Right.
For both of them. But that's something you note as you pass.
Mm-hmm.
And you continue on listening to Mr. Mueller. How would you like to play that?
Well, I mean, just based off of my thinking that it's likely not an American, then he probably doesn't have any. It's not legal for him to have that. And the fact that they're posted up outside like that makes me a little bit concerned. So I'll pat my jacket or whatever. I'd be like, Herr Mueller, my apologies, but I've forgotten something inside.
Is this like an innuendo, or are you just going to go back inside?
Yeah, like I'll say it loud enough that they would be able to hear it.
Yeah, if you want to see, what he what he's truly getting at, you can do so with a successful psychology roll. But you know, it's possible you're too thinking. Oh, yeah. You have this idea in your head that's possessing you, so you can't see any sort of finer things.
Yes, yes, of course, Herr Doctor.
I'll be back. And then I'll go back inside.
My smoke is too good. I don't want to give it up.
Right.
It is very rare that the ember just right.
So you head back inside. So back to Mr. Monroe, you had asked him if he'd like to go speak in the office.
Yeah.
But he says in his absurdly high-pitched Italian accented voice, "No, I want to look at the Peruvian artifacts." And he pulls a flyer out from his jacket and he says, "I've heard much about them. One particular item, a mirror or a mask of some kind. Show me the mask."
I'm afraid a mask was never a part of my exhibit. Perhaps you've been misinformed.
I don't think so. My source was pretty sure that it would be here, or with Mr. Whitmire. Is that you, I presume? And he turns and looks at you, Mr. Whitmire.
What would it be to imitate his voice?
Oh, man.
I'm feeling a little dangerous
If
here.
you want to just try to, can you do an Italian accent?
Yeah, well, that's basically what I want to try.
Bad Italian accent.
Yeah,
Right, we could do
bad
bad
Italian and a high pitch.
Just go for it.
Yeah,
Yep.
just go for it.
All right.
What are you going to say?
So, hold on just a second.
I just pictured Jay Leno when this guy's talking.
Really, I'm hearing like Mike Tyson.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Now, Kith.
All right. So, I'll do the high pitch like Italian like I am Mr. Whitmire.
I'm going to look at him really strange.
And then just
Like, what
a
are you
big grin on my face.
Got you, big grin on your face. You say that to him, and his whole complexion darkens to a murderous shade, and he steps forward and tries to grab the front of your jacket to lift you up to his height. Do you want to allow that to happen?
I'll try to dodge if I can.
Yeah.
And what would it be for me to kind of step between them and apologize
I don't think you
as he
can,
reaches
though, right?
for him?
Can't push combat rolls. Is that the dang thing?
No, you can only use luck.
Wow.
The reason you can't push him is because it proceeds in rounds, and you'll have another opportunity to do whatever it is you're trying to do. So yeah, he's able to grab the front of your jacket and lift you up to where you're staring eye to eye to him. Now, unfortunately, that's happened, Mr.
calm
Monroe.
down there, big fella.
But now,
It's me, Mario.
And then I'll just start laughing again.
but now you may act.
All right. So I'll put a hand on the gentleman's back and I'll say, I apologize for Mr. Whitmire's apparent lack of decorum, but if you are going to thrash him, could you please step outside and away from the artifacts? I don't want to see any of them get damaged.
I'm not leaving until I learn where the mirror's at. I know it's with one of you.
It's
No.
probably back in Peru, you gorilla. Get back over there and find it.
And I'll say to him, if you want to have a discussion about this, then you're going to have to put Mr. Whitmire down, because I'm not continuing to speak to you about this until we are both away from the artifacts that exist now.
All right, well, let's get one of your social things. But unfortunately, in this circumstance, you can't use persuade. It's too fast
Okay.
to do it. So you'd have to, it sounds to me like you're relying on, I don't know, because that's not really charming, but nor was it intimidating. It could be a fast talk.
Yeah, I'm definitely not the one for that.
'Cause I can try that if you want.
Well, it's Mr. Monroe's
Could I use a
action, I
psychology?
suppose. No, psychology is a sense.
You sense he's pissed.
Yeah, which is obvious.
And
what's
with
going
good
on.
reason.
I can do a fast talk roll, but if there's anything else,
Well, you can do charm if you want to change up your approach. I was just going based off what you actually said.
Yeah, I'll give charm a chance.
Okay, so
Holy crap!
Hey, good job.
all right, so
out of 50 versus 15. That's
let's refilter what you said to him through the context of being more charming.
yeah. So I'll kind of say, my good sir, is a man of your stature and size could easily do anything that you want to us, but I am begging on your better nature as a human being to work with us rather than just strictly thrash us. I mean, I can see that you're a good man, and you didn't come here for a fight, as I can tell. You just came here for some information, and an intelligent man such as yourself could know that if you hurt us, then you may not get that information, and you being a smart man, I'm sure that you don't want to cause any problems that don't need to be happening.
So he sets Whitmire down as a result of your charm, but he has still one fist gripping your lapel there. For your part, Mr. Whitmire, as you're watching Monroe talk to him, in your line of work, you've met a lot of men like this. A lot of criminals have a strange sort of propensity for like faith, like Christianity, Protestant or Catholic, but it's perfunctory at best. They kind of use it as a tripwire where they're like, well, I made it known that I wouldn't do this thing if they didn't do this thing, but they did the thing, so I can now do the thing. Meaning he's just waiting for any further slip up to get back to where he was, but Monroe managed to talk him down a little bit. So at that point, Dr. Andrews comes around the corner to this second room, and so you get there right at the stage as you see this huge Italian man put Mr. Whitmire back on his feet, and Monroe is applying his charms on him.
And so I'm going to be stepping between him as I do this charm talk and kind of smoothing out his jacket and getting him out of an aggressive state. But I'll be with the big guy. I'll be straightening up his jacket and say, I apologize for ruffling your clothes, and straightening him out.
Is there an action you would like to take from your vantage point? Doesn't seem like anybody's aware of you. Actually, give me a spot hidden again when you look around that room. Nice. With that hard success, you see there's other people there, although they're starting to clear out as soon as he had lifted Whitmire off his feet. But there's one gentleman standing somewhere towards the back who seems to be paying special attention to what's happening amongst those three. He's watching it very closely.
What does he look like?
Has that same sort of look. You think he'd be another Frenchman. Somehow you're able to put that together by characteristics.
The big
thought you were going to say
under his arm.
Thought you were going to say he looks like Finn McCracken.
Okay, so I'll sort of like pretend I'm just browsing, but make my way over towards that person.
Okay.
Do I see anything on my path that could be used as a weapon?
Yeah, there's quite a few gold figurines or statuettes that would make a good impromptu club, at least for a few hits.
This is where Monroe stops you.
Yeah.
No, this must not occur here.
Not that one.
So out.
Use the forgery.
Yeah.
So out in the on the street, as you're smoking your pipe, one of those gentlemen in a French accent speaks English to you, and he asks if you work here at this museum.
No, I would not work at... lost my accent. No. I would never work at such a establishment of ill repute.
Oh, okay. Well, you should clear on, old-timer.
Oh, but I have to wait for my companions to come out. I am Johann Müller.
Let's see. You want to try your charm there?
So,
Yeah, that's like your old man thing going on. See how he responds to it.
charm.
It's close. Luck or push it.
Oh man, like he'd get violent or something.
It's only 6.
Let's push
luck.
it.
All right.
Is that good with you, Chaz?
Yeah, I'm just trying to. So you're not your normal self, right?
Yeah.
So something of your true inner Johann Mueller might come out and be threatening towards this man.
Got like kind of like a smile that I think is warm and welcoming,
Right, yeah.
but it's more vicious.
Yeah, it looks predatory or something like that.
All right, here we go.
Oh, nice.
Dude,
Always push it.
Come on.
Johann Mueller, professor of history.
Oh, okay. So yeah. So what he shakes your hand and he says his name is. Hold on, sorry. Jean. Why did I have to go to my?
By the time your guys are done, he'll be working for you, Mr. Mueller.
So what the position you got him in there with is basically he's going to listen to whatever you say from this point on, as you might dote on an old person, right? Like your possibility of even being a threat is totally distinguished, and now you're just kind of a nuisance of the job. But he's going to humor it so he doesn't make a show. And you're just sitting there, talking to them.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been to France. What do you say?
Well, it's not difficult for a European to be to most European countries.
Like in my younger day, maybe I went and not studied art, but attempted to study some art. So I'll France is a most wonderful place. I was there one time in the spring, and I'll just
give me a luck roll.
Okay. No.
Yeah, so it just happens that I imagine since you spent some time in Africa that you passed through France, and that would be where most of your experiences were. Or you spent a small holiday there, like you're saying, on your way to elsewhere. I was looking if you caught onto something he would know about, and then it might get a little bit friendlier. But this doesn't change anything. He's just willing to listen to your story about a part of France that he doesn't know too well. As he just mentions that he hasn't gotten out very far outside of Paris or other port cities.
Many a hedonistic night in the rain.
Uh-oh. We got to close the scene there. Go over to somebody else.
Joking.
All right, Whitmire. So he sets you down, and you can see that Mr. Monroe has calmed him now. But like I said, this guy has tripwires up, and he's just waiting. What he wants to do is headbutt you or punch your teeth out or something like that, but he's restraining himself only a little bit.
All right. So I'll attempt the fast talk to finish diffusing the situation. Mainly I've traveled around the world a bit, and I can tell you that America is not one. Isn't the country to come into and start roughing people around, right? And being the city that it is, I'm sure we can hear some police sirens somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll point out that one of those fine ladies and gentlemen that probably stepped out this door has already run to the police. So that's the idea behind this one.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, shoot it out there.
Made it.
By one. Nice.
No. Always the best.
Yeah, so you see that your attempts have put a thought into his head, and a shadow of alarm passes over his face. So you kind of have him on his back heel a little bit, but he maintains that he knows you have the mask. Does a Mr. Larkin mean anything to the two of you? Because that's who told me you have the mask.
I'm trying to remember who that was.
He was the guy the drug addict guy
that hired us. That was going to be the expedition.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, he's the one we left back in the place, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll bring that up. Is that Mr. Larkin was only a part of our expedition at the very beginning, and while he was there when we first all gathered, he wasn't there when we found any of the artifacts that I brought back.
I want to tell him that I sold it to Francis Sweetwater.
Okay. That's a good ploy. But let me check in with Dr. Andrews. So I've allowed you to move partially across this room without needing any further skill rolls to get closer to this guy. Do you want to hang where you are? We'll say you're about 15 feet away from where he is. But if you want to keep moving over that way, then I would allow a stealth roll. Or if you can think of another skill that might fit into it.
Surgery.
We need you there. He's like, clear the trepanning area.
No, I'll call that good. I'll pretend like I'm supremely interested in some.
Yeah, and you're posted by a statuette you could grab and start swinging real quick. So
Okay.
we'll keep that in mind.
Stay there.
Does
You see him.
Monroe get a psychology roll to
To notice what?
the intent that
To notice that Andrews is going to use one of my precious artifacts as a club.
No, I'll actually allow that Andrews is in eye contact with you guys. So he's got behind the big guy. And so you see him
Monroe's
there.
slightly shaking his head.
And you saw him size up the statuette.
And yeah, I'm getting more and more desperate just to move everything out of my museum.
Okay, Whitmire, before we get around to what you might do about that thought, let's have Monroe do something, and then we'll come back around to you if he wants.
Do I have a little bit more time for persuade check now?
No, because at minimum you need 30 minutes
Okay.
to get off of persuade.
All right. So I'll be saying, as far as the artifacts that came back from Peru that are here, they are all on display. If there's anything else you wish, then they would be at another location. If you would like to continue this conversation, we can do it outside.
Maybe we take a look at your storeroom.
Let's see. Oh, you can walk through my storeroom. That's fine. But all of the artifacts are out of this that came from Peru are out here on the floor. They're my biggest draw. And there's no reason for me to hide another artifact in the back room.
All the same.
Okay. Then follow me, but you're going to have to let my friend down.
Well, he did. He just has his...
Yeah.
So he'll release it.
You're going to have to let go.
Okay, so we'll just check in with Professor Mueller. Do you want to keep things in the stasis, or do you want to try for something else?
Like, I might know something's up because you had me do those rolls,
Yeah.
but for the most part, I mean, Johan's got this on lock.
Yeah. Yeah, so, they're listening. I mean, you are a speaker. You are a lecturer, so you do actually say interesting things once you get into a topic. So.
I think I'll start going, because it's on my mind, I'll start going into trepanning
Okay.
and maybe the history of it.
Yeah, do the occult roll. We'll see how well you do with your...
Nice.
Yeah, so, I mean, people that have even an inkling of interest in that topic, or even not, would be... their attention is grasped by what you're saying. So these two guys... The other dude stubs out his cigarette and they're just sort of listening to you.
While I'm talking, I'll fish in my pocket for a lighter and see if he wants to light up another smoke.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
light his cigarette for him.
All right, so Whitmire has had this thought about...
If Mr. Monroe has convinced him to let me go at this point and wants to show him through the back room, and I'll keep that one in my back pocket.
Okay.
If things go wrong.
So, yeah, they're moving rooms, Dr. Andrews.
Okay, so I'll keep an eye on what this other one is going to do.
Yeah, once they get out of this area, he moves to the entry between the two viewing rooms, and he kind of posts up there where he has a shot at the storeroom door,
Okay.
which these guys head into.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just stay where I am so I don't draw his attention, or I'll just continue to wander, but I want to keep a straight line between him and I in case, and then I'll just keep my ears pricked for any sounds of struggle taking place in the storeroom.
Okay. All right, so in the storeroom, he looks around at the packaged up items that you have there. There's really nothing obvious sticking out because I assume that you keep things pretty orderly.
Yeah, if you've ever seen like one of those, back room at the museum type movies or whatever, things are laid out on the shelf, they're tagged, they're with their location, where I found them, all that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, most of the stuff is just kind of laid out on shelves. At least anything bigger than, like a little tiny token or a piece of paper or something like that.
So he kind of lifts up a tag to see what it is, and he's like, I need something. I can't not go back to the boss without anything.
I'll say, I think I know exactly what you need, and I'll find one of those frog statues.
I don't need... I need to know where the mirror is.
Oh, as far as the mirror, everything that I had that came with me is here. There were some things that I believe were detained and didn't make it through customs. So
I need a name. He said, Mr. Larkin said, Father told him one of you two has it.
Okay, so at that, yeah, now I'll tell him, as I did have it, but I sold it to a guy named Francis Walsh.
Okay. So
Private
you know
collector.
that if you go the fast talk route, eventually that's going to unravel, and that'll be a temporary solution. Is that what you want to do?
Well, I'm usually just looking to get out of whatever situation I'm currently in.
Yeah, he's the type of guy that builds a bridge out of ice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Prays that he's out of town by summer.
Okay. Let's see it.
Nice.
So yeah, his eyes get that focused look once you drop the name, and he wants a few details. Where can he find them? When did you sell it to him? That sort of stuff. And you're adept at rattling those things out. And after about a 5-minute, well, we'll say less than that, we'll say like 2-minute discussion, he seems satisfied with what you've given him. And he pats your jacket and offers his apologies.
Yeah, I'll do the same. Not pat his jacket, but apologize. Sorry, if I'd known that you guys were going to come looking for it, maybe I would have held on to it a little bit longer. But things scared the heck out of me, so I wanted to get rid of it as quick as I could.
So he looks at you, Mr. Monroe, and he says, nice place. Nice a place.
Thank you. And
Magnifique.
I'm assuming that you're Pishtaku.
Oh, what?
Pishtaku.
Yeah, fish tacos. Goodbye. We know all about you guys.
I don't know what you're talking about.
The other members of Mr. Larkin's group were part of a group called Pishtaku, and whether you are or aren't, I suggest that you be a little bit cautious while being in Boston, because there's another group by the name of the Consortium that may take offense,
Umbrage,
at your organization coming here.
Well, thank you for the tip, but he looks perplexed at these new terms you've introduced to him.
But I'll give him the frog statue, and I'll say, take this with you, and if you run across any of these Consortium members, be wary of them. They are just as powerful as Mr. Larkin.
Yeah, but that thing will protect you if you do come across him.
All right. Well, there's a certain amount of psychology where people take things that are handed to him. So he holds it in his hand for now, and he leaves without proper farewell, or heads out of the storeroom. Signals to that guy you've been keeping an eye on, Dr. Andrews, and they head out the door, where just a moment before there was a group of people that came out, the ones that were scared by what had happened, and this kind of alerted those two, and they started to head in. But then you see this huge Italian guy come out the door, and he's like, he says, let's go. It's not here. But give me a group luck roll, whoever's the lowest luck.
I've got a
I don't
41.
think that's me anymore.
45.
62.
All right,
55.
that's on you, Whitmire.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That's a critical. What is that? Is that
That's the end of our luck for the game session.
So you get to make
Sorry, everybody.
You get to make an immediate POW increase roll. So you're doing like a skill check. So
Trying
you
to
want
fail
to
it.
fail your power roll.
Oh.
Oh.
Too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, he takes you see him examine that toad statuette that he walks out with, and he's like, he nods at it and puts it in his jacket, and then he signals to the other two men, and one was behind him, and they start to head off.
Okay. Yeah, I'll Auf Wiedersehen, Jean.
Yeah, and those two actually give you a friendly enough goodbye for Bruno's anyways. But back in the storeroom, Mr. Monroe and Whitmire, do you breathe a sigh of relief? What's happening? I suppose Dr. Andrews, you could.
Yeah, once
Come
that
check
guy
on
gets out of the way, I'll go check on him.
Yeah, so.
I'll be chuckling to myself over that guy's
and I'll
voice.
turn on Whitmire and say, and what do you think he's going to do when he finds out that that Francis Walsh does not have the mask.
Maybe I give the mask to the consortium and let them sort it out.
I wouldn't trust anyone with that mask.
Well,
So,
I could tell you that it's in a spot that no one would ever find it without me, and I really don't feel like giving it up right now.
You're playing a very dangerous game with some very dangerous people.
What do
Even
you
more
think
dangerous
we've
than the
been
ones that
doing
you're
this
u-
entire time?
Yeah, so I'll go in the storeroom and say, "Are you guys okay? There's someone with a gun out there. I think he was with these guys that you were talking to."
Yes, more Pishtaku.
Yeah, they're looking for some of the artifacts from Peru. So
And-
apparently not these ones.
So you don't have what they were looking for?
No, unfortunately not.
John, we got to resolve your critical success there because you get a little something extra than normal. So the statuette has one effect where if you fail a power roll while it's in your possession or you sleep around it, it gives you odd cravings.
Oh, that explains that.
So I'm going to let you choose which of the cravings he gets. I'll list them off for you here, just so you can know what's troubling this man if he never enters the scene again. So we have large amounts of one edible food, so they would just never seem to be satiated. They would just continually eat whatever that particular food is. An inedible substance or inedible objects, raw meat, human flesh, human hair, or bodily fluids.
And how many of those does Johann have?
He just has the one. Which one of those do you favor for this guy?
I really like the idea of the human flesh, actually. It's going to get so much trouble doing this.
Meathead, the mad Italian.
I was going to suggest.
Cannibal.
I
Yeah,
can't remember the.
he's a early, 1920s cannibal.
Okay.
I was going to suggest. Was it like consuming corpse meat? But living flesh works fine too.
Well, I
Wasn't
guess
one of
it
the
could be
options.
any type of flesh.
Yeah.
Either way,
All right.
it's going to mess him up.
Sorry about that interruption back in the storeroom, guys.
But yeah, saying to Dr. Andrews, well, there's not much else for it right now. We didn't have what he wanted, and he's off to try and find someone that might. So
Okay.
I suppose we should just continue on with our investigation and keep in mind that that organization from Peru is now here in Boston as well.
Yep. And I think we should change locations for messages since they...
This place is going to be an inferno soon.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could use the order.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Okay, so resolving that, I have already forgotten how you guys were splitting up and who was going where.
Andrews and Whitmire are going to the college, and it looks like me.
Colleges, yeah.
Yeah, Whitmire, and then Monroe and me are searching for the tobacco. Like, was it origin and ingredients?
To see if anybody else had placed
Oh,
an order.
yeah.
that's right. Yeah, but I am curious about the ingredients as well.
And I'm also going to suggest that perhaps we should check on some of the other ley line locations in the city.
Was that? What's that? Are we actually talking to each other?
I don't know. Do you want to stay posted up there after all of that,
yeah.
or would that make you suspicious enough to maybe come back and see if everything's okay?
No, I think the frog statue has Johann looking after them as they leave, and is now still looking the direction they left, kind of puffing on his pipe, and his eyes are kind of unfocused, kind of thinking.
Well, what we
yeah.
can say then is that they
Yeah, we
resolve their conversation when Whitmire says we should probably split, and you head out front where you join up with Mr. Mueller. So there you go. Now it can continue.
Okay. No. So what? Oh, the ley lines. Oh, yes, I agree. That's the ley lines should definitely be investigated.
Well, yeah. One of the things that the consortium member had mentioned that has me, curious is we found Orin, the desiccated corpse, hidden at one location with a frog statue. Corbett was at another location of power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if some of the other members are also hidden at ley line locations.
What's
That's a good idea.
You may not remember it, Johan, but as part of the description of entering the Corbett property, you had that tingling like you were on the verge of a headache, which you now know Oren has kind of alluded to that you can kind of feel when you're on a ley line on these convergences, because that's also what happened when you were at the Church of Contemplation.
Yeah.
So conceivably, it seems like a person could just walk around an area if they knew what they were looking for.
Perhaps we could procure a map, first of all.
Yes.
Perhaps some dowsing. What is it? The one with the gem over the map? Perhaps we'd be drawn to places of power.
That could work. Perhaps there's even somebody that has already mapped them out.
Perhaps. There would be one person that I would recommend, but I do not believe I should go there to procure their services.
Okay. Well,
What was the name of the...
Lamar at Orion's
Lamar.
spiritual kids.
A young man?
Yeah, soft-spoken young man.
Soft-spoken young man, Lamar at Orion's. And I'll...
perhaps while we're out, reaching out to various tobacconist shops to see if they've had any orders for this Dream Castle tobacco, we can swing by and I can have a small talk with the young man.
Agreed.
Whitmire and Andrews, is there any further discussion you two wanted to have before we split ways?
Not me.
Yeah. Tell
Boston University first, and then Harvard.
no. Yeah, I was just gonna ask Andrews which one we wanted to go to first.
Yeah, so it looks like Boston University.
Yeah.
All right, so we will stick with Dr. Andrews and Mr. Whitmire to begin as they head off to University of Massachusetts, which is a smaller, less prestigious college. Doesn't have what Harvard has, but nonetheless, there are people who do good work here, and one of them is Van Barnett, doctor of medicine, but he does not practice. He teaches, and he has been examining a fiber that you gave to him for the last day or so. So you head in to meet with him, and there you find him grading papers as classes have let out for the day, and he looks up upon your arrival. Dr. Andrews, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Van. Just came by to see what you had learned about that odd insect fiber.
Yes, very fascinating, but unfortunately I've not been able to determine conclusively what it is. I suspect it's a composite of many materials. However, I have done a few things. With the Archimedes principle, I've determined that it's denser than iron or steel. It's not ferromagnetic, and at the risk of destroying it, knowing that hair fibers have the same combustion point as paper, I exposed it to heat in excess of 800 degrees, and it withstood that heat. So whatever this creature belonged to, it's able to withstand hostile environments. I wish I could know more about where you found it, or how it might have arrived there once you found it. Does that help you in any way?
Well,
It tells us that it's quite frightening if we ever encounter whatever it actually came from.
yeah, I don't know I don't know what it tells us.
Now, this was supposed to be like essentially an insect leg.
This
the
is like
hair.
a little hair that.
Oh, this is
insect
just the
have.
hair. Jeez.
Called a seta singular, setae plural, I believe,
Hmm.
is the technical term for it.
Well, how would Charlie have gotten one of these?
Well,
And we found
it
another
was
one
in
at his
the
house.
Dooley house. Maybe they're still in contact with him.
I can say with some confidence that I believe it to be natural in origin for, well, maybe supernatural is more appropriate given its durability. But if this were crafted by somebody, I would expect it to look different under the microscope. As you saw, it carried the same incongruencies we expect of nature. As they say, God does not work in straight lines.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to get a cross-section of it, and I definitely think it is a hair, because it has much of the same makeup of hair. But
And
sorry, I
you-
couldn't be more help.
Were you able to cut it at all? As you said that it had the same density as steel.
Yes, with a scalpel, I was still able to sever one end of it off.
And where is it now?
He has it in the jar with you, where you see like just a bit off the end is line separately from it.
What other substances did you use on it? Did you test any other? Like, did you test water or?
Yeah, that was the Archimedes principle to determine its density.
Mm-hmm.
I can only make guesses. Maybe silicone as a base, but composite it with something else just by its durability against heat has me think in that direction. But as I said, I suspect it's a composite, but that makes it difficult to know which individual elements are in there as a spectrometer is not quite available to the degree that we need to determine to isolate its individual components. I think we'll have to wait 20, 30 years for it to get there.
Okay.
This is the best I can do with the tools I have at my disposal. If you guys find any more that you suspect belongs to whatever this hair belonged to, I'd be happy to look at it. Or if you have other questions.
Did you subject it to radiation?
To radioactive? No, I did not.
Oh. What about cold?
I'm not entirely sure I know what that is yet.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry.
What?
I think you'll need to wait about 20
X-rays?
years or so.
Wouldn't have been quite like radiation, but
I guess.
I think this is probably during the time where they're still like using radium paint.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Just
think
because it glows and
I think
they don't
X-ray.
understand why people are getting sick.
Lick the brush. Paint
Yeah.
off.
Isn't X-ray around right now? Like a very early form of it?
Well, they would have the term radiation because it describes sort of a process for things. But the term itself was discovered in 1896, and it just had to do, on an overcast day. Well, never mind. Let's not get distracted. We'll just say it's not to a sufficient degree because I think we all know in the 50s they're talking about irradiate your vegetables so you have this super large yield. Think of all the people you can feed. So they don't have a good grasp on it yet, and he didn't see the need to do that if it was even enter his head.
Well, I
you also
appreciate everything that you've been able to tell us about it, and if we come in contact with any more of this creature, I'd be happy to give you more.
Yes, I'm afraid the scientific method, while it is exact, sometimes the results lead to more questions. You also had that drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask if he could. I'll show him that drawing and ask him if anybody from the mathematics department could tell us what it is.
Yeah, let me see. I know just the fellow. Follow me. He leads you out of his classroom across the hall, or it's actually in a separate part of the building, where he introduces you to Terrence Parker, who is a specialist in those matters, and he asks if he has a moment to look at something, which indicates that he does. So he's looking at you curiously, Dr. Andrews.
Yeah, so I'll introduce myself and then show him that drawing and ask him if he can explain what it is, what this is, what this means.
Yes. This is a gravitational singularity, I would think, although there are many different ways to draw diagrams of it. This, you see, is from the Einstein's recently released theory, or general theory of relativity. So what you have here is a depiction of space-time being drawn together by a singularity. So you see, at a singularity, space and time cease to exist, and the laws of physics, as we know them, may not apply. Now generally when they draw it, there aren't points on it. So whoever drew this might have been indicating different locations in space-time. So they could either be separated by distance or time or both. I don't really know. It's not that detailed in this diagram. But because a singularity is infinitely dense and it has infinite gravity, at least according to these cutting-edge theories, space-time is warped as it approaches. So it looks like whoever drew this drew these points close together where they were once separated by either much time or much space.
So both drawings are a depiction of the same thing. It's just this left drawing is where those points all converge?
Yes.
And where is this Einstein fellow right now? Can we meet with him?
I believe he's probably, I'm not sure of the time difference here. He may be at home enjoying supper, prepping up for a lecture in Germany. No. You see, this he published this paper in 1912, but it's only now starting to be taken on at this university and taught regularly. Really quite out there in a lot of ways. Not sure if it'll catch on fully. So who drew this?
A 14-year-old touched boy.
I've heard of such phenomenon. He does have a good grasp on physics, it would appear, or at least its theories.
Yeah, which makes no sense whatsoever.
Good enough for you to give him a scholarship?
Well, I don't. They come from...
Well, let me ask then, Professor, what would a person be trying to convey by this drawing? Would they be trying to convey the point at which they all meet just for its own purposes, or would they be trying to convey something that would happen if this were to take place?
Yeah, I think both at the same time. We could say X is a tree on a hill somewhere, sometime. Y could be a beach and the smell of the ocean. And Z could even be a person. And you see in that right diagram, they're all somewhere out there in space and time. And then if a singularity occurs and pulled that all together, then they would be next to each other. Or they could even exist in the same spot. According to the theories, once you're in that singularity from an outside observer, Einstein hypothesizes, you would just see it that way forever. It would be locked in one location, 3 disparate events or objects.
So is he indicating that he is stuck in that time? I want to whisper that over to Andrews.
I don't know. I have to admit that I'm out of my depth here. I don't understand why he would even know how to properly represent something that I've never even heard of. He's, by all accounts, not bad with numbers, helping his uncle in the shop, but gets confused, apparently, by order forms. And I can't imagine a boy who gets confused by simple order forms would be able to represent this brand new scientific theory so accurately.
Whitmire, I'll remind you that those order forms were confusing to you.
Yeah.
Because
all right, so I'll make a comment about that. Be like, I couldn't make sense of those order forms either, though.
Yeah, it seemed like they were all mixed up. As I described, sometimes you'd have different tin sizes of the same type of product, but he'd have them in different locations.
Now, Charlie gave us this, he gave this to us, right?
He was drawing it on the back of one of his assessments at the sanitarium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
and Lewis.
This is the gravy thing, huh?
No, the gravy thing was Latakia. This was drawn on the back. The head guy gave it to you.
Yeah, the doctor.
These were his assessment papers, and he drew this on the back of them.
He was curious if it meant anything to you guys.
Well, it doesn't. I don't.
I think we need to go take this to this Einstein fella.
Well, I think we need to discuss. I think we might need to discuss this with Charlie again and see if we can manage to get anything out of him about it.
I mean, that drawing on the left kind of looks like those Chinese hats stuck together. So maybe he's referencing Asian culture?
Well, maybe.
That's that's about as much sense as this is making to me right now. I mean, I didn't do bad in school, but I have no clue what he's trying to indicate here.
Some of these concepts are way out there, and without the foundation, you're kind of leaping into the deep end. So it sounds to me like this young man you're describing is gifted in one ways and less so in others, and he just happens to have a firm grasp of physics.
Should we start a petition?
Was just doodling at the end of his assessment, maybe he finished early and was entertaining himself with physics.
Maybe we can get a petition list from the most reputable professors in all the schools to stay his execution and let him go to college instead.
Yeah, I suppose. Well, I'll just offer my thanks for their assistance. That's the best I can do.
They give each other a science gack high five and say goodbye. All right, so on the road to Harvard or tobacco shop, is that the first place, or what are you guys looking into?
Are we even actually going to investigate?
Seems like you got drawn off into the ley line matter, so I'm not sure which was first up.
Because we know he's from the consortium,
Oh, that's right. Secret missions.
No, who's from the consortium?
The mysterious buyer with the odd shadow.
Oh, yeah, we know that. Knowing where he is wouldn't be a bad idea either, though, or at least where they might be coming from.
Okay.
We could go to a tobacconist shop, maybe try and find one near Harvard, or in between where I need to speak to the young man that might have information about the ley lines. But yeah, we can stop by a tobacconist shop and just see, and then continue on.
Sort of in the Cambridge neighborhood is what you're thinking.
Yeah. Perhaps as we walk to the tobacconist, we can keep our wits about us and see if we feel any of the telltale signs.
Yes, yeah. It seems as if there is a Harvard chapter that is involved in this, that it stands to reason that they might have a point of interest on the campus as well.
Yes, perhaps. So, where shall we go first, Herr Monroe?
Well, I'm guessing we're taking public transportation, so either the bus or something would probably drop us off somewhere, and we'll go from there to wherever the nearest point is.
Yeah, you can catch a subway from where you were in Boston over to the Cambridge neighborhood.
Yeah.
And then from there take trolleys or whatever else.
And where's the location of the young man that you suggested?
Orion's would be back in the neighborhood in which your museum is.
Well then let's stop by there first.
All right.
Yeah, and then we'll hop on.
All right, so subway. Orion's spiritual goods. Johan, I believe, has been here once before, maybe, or
I don't know if I was
heard of it
actually there, but I did meet. Lance, was that?
Lamar.
There we go.
So when you guys go in, his door has a jingle above it, like many doors do, but it makes some weird chime. It's not just a bell.
And what's this shop called? It's Lamar's.
Orion's.
Oh, Orion's.
Is there any significance to it?
To the term Orion?
No, the chime itself.
You would just say he probably picked it for the atmosphere.
Okay.
It has sort of like a Near Eastern ring to it in a way.
I'll lean over to Monroe and I'll say, perhaps a huckster, but he was present at the corporate house.
Well, many people consider me a huckster, and I've investigated some very serious things, so perhaps he has some useful information.
I'm just saying that we attempted to perform a seance.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, I have no recollection of the seance succeeding in any way, so some of the reports say that I spoke in another voice. Take of that what you will.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the Lamar is there working the counter, and he looks up, and when he sees you, his face, the blood drains from it.
I'll give him the smile that I gave the Jean.
And all right. Yeah, you want to throw out another charm there?
Okay. Come on. Charm. Herr Lamar. Push it.
If you want to.
Push it.
You can just see that you'll close off this avenue by his expression, like it'll just shut down this as an opportunity if you fail the pushed roll.
I won't. I kind of figured that my coming here was bad to begin with. I believe I warned Monroe. I'll just...
So can I do a psychology check to see like the effect, or is it obvious that when he looked at Johan, he was disturbed?
Yeah, it is obvious because his face went like 2 or 3 shades whiter.
Okay.
And a look of horror.
What kind of a smile did you give this guy?
one that isn't sane.
So yeah, I'll give Johan like a pat on the shoulder and say, perhaps I should speak to him alone.
Oh, I was just going to make introductions. Lamar, Herr Monroe, a colleague of mine, he wishes to discuss some matters.
And of course, I'll pull out a flyer and I'll say, since we're in a similar business, perhaps you know of my museum, and I'll hand him one.
Yes, I've heard of it, but what are you two doing here? I'm not going to leave my shop anytime soon, just so you know.
Oh, no, nothing like that. Mr. Mueller, perhaps you'd like a chance to have a pipe while the young man and I speak.
Always a good opportunity for a pipe. If ever I have, I've never found a bad time. Well, anyway, auf Wiedersehen, Lamar. Then I'll kind of hobble outside.
Okay.
Light up my pipe.
But yeah, I'll kind of explain to him, we've been looking into several things and we've come across some occurrences in our endeavors to, look into occult matters that seem to coincide with ley lines. And I'm sure that you're familiar with these kinds of conversations and concepts. And when I spoke to Mr. Mueller about who perhaps may have, any information on ley lines in and around the area of Boston, your name popped up and as one that was a bit of an expert in matters of the strange and the unusual.
So your mention of his, chosen interest does calm him a little bit, though you see that he had reached to his collar and was clutching a cross that was hidden there. His faith has been shaken since it's a reverse one.
I like how Chris kind of gets a smile of satisfaction at like disturbing this young man.
Yes, sacred sites or holy lines. What is it you wanted to know about them?
Just wondering about general locations of known locations of spiritual power in and around the Boston area. Perhaps areas where covens meet or things of that nature that, have natural points of power.
Dowsing equipment as well.
Yes. And yeah, any information or equipment that you could give us to help us find such a location.
Yeah, he can point you to some, like the tuning fork. Is that the dowsing rod?
Yeah.
These have been said to react with certain convergences and holy lines and sacred sites. As far as Boston, Massachusetts has a storied history with witchcraft, and there are many sites across the state that I can point you to. Within Boston itself, as I understand it, some of the Boston Public Garden used to be old farmland and was the site of reported witchcraft.
That definitely helps. Perhaps any other locations where that you may have found buildings or churches or anything of the matter.
Well,
perhaps one location that we had been kind of drawn to or led to was up near Harvard. Perhaps anywhere up near there that you know of.
I can't say I've heard anything in particular about Harvard, but it is said that the finals clubs there were erected on holy sites, where they get their mysterious and secret power. But that's hearsay. Although one does wonder at the amount of presidents and senators and congressmen that come out of those places. Perhaps there's a convergence in all of nature that propels these men forward. It's an interesting idea.
Yes. Whether the power that makes the man or the men gathering together makes the power, it's a discussion that can be made.
There's also the idea that horrible events can mark the land and leave behind a site ever after. Again, the Boston Public Gardens, when they were erecting the subway in that area, they used slaves at the time, and many of them died during the work, and it was only recently discovered a mass grave for these people there. Just a few years back. That would certainly leave a mark on the land. I think it was 80-something bodies in this grave.
It is quite the tragedy there. But yes, I see what you mean.
I can't remember the farm, the name of who owned the farm that the Boston Public Garden now stands on, but yes, accused of witchcraft and killed, and here we are, many years later, and 80 laborers are killed in the construction of a subway on that area and buried en masse. That's kind of how these things line up, it seems to me.
Yes, either created through horrific events or sanctified through occultist means. It sounds as if the Boston Public Garden has had both happen there.
Yes, not too far from here. I'm sure you've seen it. To give you guys context, it's very much like a Central Park in Boston.
Okay.
So you would have like the Boston Public Garden or
Boston
Commons, as it's called. You've probably actually trotted through it in a couple of different video games over the years.
Yeah.
Fallout
4 for sure.
Yeah. Do you know of any specific location within the Boston Public Gardens? I mean, it's not exactly the smallest of locations. Perhaps a specific region or...
Well, I have chanced across a bit of, children's babble, I suppose you might say, a little bit of a rumor about the garden. There is a particular statue of a woman kneeling to pluck flowers that certain enterprising kids will go and repeat a chant. It's said, if you repeat this chant 3 times, then good fortune comes to you. Yes, my nephew told me about this.
And what is the chant?
Let's see if I can remember it. Lily of the flowers, give to us your powers. Bring the April showers and bloom the lily flowers. Scours, devours, neath the sycamore bowers. If I had it all correct, I think it was something like that.
Interesting. Well, that is definitely something for me to go on. As just a curiosity, have you, in your travels around Boston, come across any locations where you sense these powers? From what Johan had been saying, you have a sensitivity to some of these things.
Unfortunately, I have not had any first-hand experience with that, and I must profess that this is more of just an interesting topic to me. I do not believe there is any power behind these sorts of things. How could there be? This is an age of reason.
Yes, but as we discover through reason, many things that were previously unexplained have perfectly good explanations, and perhaps one day these ley lines will be found to have a scientific explanation behind them as well.
I can, I suppose, say that the Cops Hill neighborhood has a peculiarity to it, particularly the old Corbett house.
Yes, that one I'm aware of.
And as I understand it, the Chapel of Contemplation has a sordid past, the old church grounds there.
Yes, that's another one that we've also have documented. I was just curious if there were any others that you may have come across.
You found that all to be false, I hope.
Well,
quite the contrary.
There is definitely a source of energy, I should say, there at those locations that has yet to be fully understood. And I'm curious if some of these other locations that have reported ley lines have similar energies.
Well, that's the closest in proximity there on the Boston Commons, Boston Public Garden. There are other sites I could direct you to. I'm not sure of one in the Cambridge neighborhood. That place has been well-to-do for a long time now, and the rich are quite good at guarding their secrets until time has passed.
Yes, better than I had first anticipated.
Hopefully that's of some help.
Yes, it does. And I'll kind of gather up the materials for searching him out and purchase them from him.
Well, he kind of sighs and he's like, in a halting voice, just out of curiosity, what it is that you're going to be doing?
Curiosity kills a cat.
Well, as you had mentioned, the Boston Public Garden, had a mass grave there. And, as a seeker of artifacts for my museum, I look for any of these locations that may have gathered people performing rituals in the past, and I might be able to gather relics for my museum and document the lesser known histories of America, particularly those that lay along the lines that people would consider the occult.
Okay. Well, he's like, oh, okay. All right. Well,
you seem perturbed. Is there something that you were afraid that I was going to do?
no, nothing. Would you see that he was afraid to hear?
Yeah.
I thought a lot of people come in here, they want to perform midnight seances, and it's always a bad idea.
Ours is in the afternoon, I believe.
or even afternoon seances for that matter.
Well, we don't have any plans on such things. Have you ever seen such things produce results? I've always been a little bit of a skeptic about those manner of things and reaching out to the spiritual beyond, but I try to keep an open mind in such matters.
I can with confidence say that I am uncertain of the truth. Well, it seems like he is certain of it.
Okay.
But if I had, I would strike it up to just, some sort of psychosis, brought on by the group performing it. They could be so good about spinning their yarn and the history of what had happened that it creates images in the mind that become as powerful as reality. I'm certain that that's what happens in these cases. And that's what happened in my case.
He was alone when he began to scrawl the words on the wall.
Well, well, I may not be an expert in psychology. I have been aware of many cases where those kinds of psychosis can happen. Have you heard of any such issues out, like in areas around? You mentioned that quite a few people come in for these midnight seances. Has there been anyone that's reported success or?
As to that, maybe I misspoke. I maybe it was just one memorable instance of people coming in to perform a seance, in which the better part of my curiosity, or the worst part of my curiosity, forced me to join in on, and they made some very disturbing claims that I don't have a recollection of. But as I said, I believe it was a mass psychosis from that point, and the banging and all of the hoopla around apparitions was there, and I think I just wished at that time too much for it to be true.
Well, that may be very good, and I apologize for disturbing you. You seem a bit agitated by the experience, and I surely had no wish to upset you.
Are you ready to?
Yes. If you'll ring me up, then I'll be on my way and leave you to your peace.
All right. So he rings you up. You buy your things. What is your daily cash limit?
I think it's $10.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a markup on these sorts of goods. So we'll say you deduct 15 from your cash.
Okay.
To buy the.
Can I split with him?
Yeah, if you guys want to.
Okay.
You could probably cover it that way in your daily.
Let's see how much I got.
But when he sees you out and the doors close behind you and the Near Eastern chime is still in the air, you see the open sign flip around to closed. And we'll jump back over to Whitmire and Dr. Andrews.
What did you do to that poor man?
Nothing. We invited him along because he was knowledgeable of seances and he wished to see one performed.
Well, I believe he no longer wishes he had.
Unfortunately, who was it? One of our companions fell from the second-story window before we could actually get to the real meat of a seance. And Lamar scrawled all over the walls. Anyway, I have 10 spending cash. Is like if we're...
Yeah, split between you. You guys can cover it.
Okay.
This has been a Death Watch production. Thank you for listening.